The Inner Work of Relationships book takes couples through the different levels of self-esteem development. You start healing the darkest wounds all the way up to the most self-empowered states together as a couple.
That stuck out to me. That was such a beautiful motivation.
I'm better. I'm just kidding.
Every single relationship has to make the decision to say, are we going to choose love? Are we going to heal? Are we going to move forward?
You're not going to be able to cover that up or unsee it. And that's like a really interesting thing for the ego to reconcile with.
Unconditional love it's almost like we need to redefine what it means. You are totally loved. You're always worthy of love. But there are consequences, and that's it. It's really just that simple. But you're so loved, and it's okay, and you're forgiven, and they're forgiven, and everybody's just doing the best they can.
We'll make it out and fall in love tonight.
Hello, everybody. It's Thursday, which means it's another episode of the Steph and Craig Show. This time, it's part 2 with Matt and Ash, the yoga couple, and we're incredibly excited for you to hear this one.
We pick up where we left off and get even deeper into the creation of their new book, The Inner Work of Relationships.
And if you haven't yet, go back and listen to part 1 with Matt and Ash. They really share a lot about their journey together and how they came to be these amazing, incredible authors that they are today.
When we tell you that their books have changed our lives, we mean that wholeheartedly.
One of the things that we love about Matt and Ash is that they show up in such vulnerability and honesty in everything that they do. And they're really, truthfully, the people that you see online. That's who they really are behind the scenes. And that comes across in this episode.
We love them so much. And if this is your first time meeting Matt and Ash, go follow them. You can find them anywhere at the Yoga Couple.
Their book, The Inner Work of Relationships, is also available for sale right now on Amazon, TikTok Shop, and I think you can even pick it up on Instagram. Last but not least, we're having so much fun with the podcast, and we really appreciate all of the support that we've gotten. Do us a solid and go follow us on YouTube. You can subscribe to the channel there, click the notification button, all those good things. And then wherever you're listening, whether you listen on iTunes or Spotify, Amazon, there's tons of places where you can listen to this podcast. Do us another favor and just leave us a review. If you enjoy the podcast, that really, really helps us grow and expand and reach more people, and also sharing the podcast with anybody that you think might benefit as well.
Thanks for being here, and enjoy part 2 with Matt and Ash.
There were nights we would fight, no end in
So here we are, back, part 2. You want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it, babe. We're here back with part 2 with Matt and Ash. We're so excited for it. So if you haven't already, go back and listen to the first episode
Yes.
with Matt and Ash. It's going to not just give you a foundation for the conversation that we're about to have and that we're going to pick up with in regards to their books and everything, but it's going to give you a really good understanding of who they are, their journey together, why they are the yoga couple, why they're doing what they're doing, all of those kind of different things. So go back and listen to the first episode with them, and then come push play on this episode again. And I want to pick right up where we left off, Matt, because you were talking about how eventually there comes this point in the relationship. And I think this is probably true for every relationship, but some point where it's like you have to decide, right? Am I going to open up and be vulnerable? Am I going to let this person see who I am? Am I really going to let them in? And in doing so, it's this massive act of faith. It's vulnerability. There's so much fear involved with it, love involved with it. It's just really, really challenging. And I want to know more about what that felt like for you specifically. And then Ash, I want you to kind of talk through that as well, because sometimes we glaze over these really big moments in life that we don't even really recognize. And even when we look back at them, you're like, oh yeah, that was, we really had to do that. But like, what did it feel like? Do the best that you can to really go back in time. And I know that it's not one individual. It might be an individual moment. I can think of some individual moments that Steph and I have had where it was like, oh, fuck, here's a deciding moment between we either decide to continue to like hold hands and keep moving forward or not, right? And we have to open up and say scary things and do hard things, but bring that energy forth. I want to know what that was really like.
Welcome back to part 2, where we kick it off with digging up our deepest traumatic moments. Thanks, guys.
Buckle up.
Really feel into that trauma. Okay. Cool, man. No big deal. Let me do that for you.
Well, it's the reality of stuff, right?
Totally. I'm making
so
light
hard.
of it to help myself do it.
I recognize that behavior.
Yeah, I'm reminding myself that it's just a memory. It's okay, bro. It's not okay. No, I'm just making light of it. Truly, yeah, just as part of that. It's part of the healing process is to be able to look at your traumatic moments, feel them again, and also know that it's not you. So maybe I'm just I'm priming myself.
Let me go first.
Well, hold on one second though.
Oh.
I do want to say I did want to make sure and validate one thing real quick. You were saying I think every relationship goes through these moments. I wanted to validate that and say it's not even a question. Every single relationship has to make the decision to say, are we going to choose love? Are we going to heal? Are we going to move forward? Or are we going to take our ego, choose our ego? And we're either going to do two things. We can stay together, but stop growing, stay in our ego, and live under a rock for the sake of security, illusion, presentation, maybe family, whatever the excuse is, religion. There's that road where people will have the moment and they'll say, well, I'm not going to heal, but I'm not also going to leave either. So we're just going to stay stuck like this for the rest of our marriage or rest of our life. I know plenty of relationships that are doing that. The other one is, yes, to pivot and say, okay, well, I guess there's three options. And then there's literally break and say like, fuck you, fuck me, fuck us. Okay, we're done. Okay. And then there's that other choice though, to be like, okay, this is super scary, but there is no other way forward but to go through this. So it's like the crucible moment, right? Where it's like you have to go through to come out the other side. And I just wanted to validate that for everyone listening, and also just as the primer for this book, because this is literally how like the book starts. And there was something else beautiful you said in part one of regarding relationship. These beautiful, healthy relationships are not just like you just found them and you met them. Maybe it was Steph that was saying it, but they're always created. I wanted to validate that point too. They're always created. And this is, again, we have this like bolded and italicized like periodically throughout every other page, it seems like, on the beginning of the book, because we're trying to drill home the message of like every relationship has to create its greatness. Every relationship has to create its love. Every relationship has to create its healthiness, because we are totally setting ourselves up for failure and an illusion if we don't know that. And so people go into relationships not thinking they're going to create something. They think they're just going to discover it and it's going to be awesome. And it's like, no. You're setting yourself up for failure, because when you come to this moment, you'll be like, you're more likely to choose those other two paths, because you'll think, oh, I'm not going to do this. So I guess we just turn off now, which we know a lot of the older generation especially did. And then the other thing is like, oh, I guess you're not the right person, so I'm going to move on. And that's what the younger generation's doing now. They're like, well, I'm definitely not going to end up like my grandparents or my mom and dad. So I'm going to say, if you're not the right one, I'm out. And so we definitely have noticed that's how that moment arises. You have to have that awareness of something's not wrong at all. This is par for the course, baby. We're right on track. We have to learn shit. We have to we have to like unlearn some stuff. We have to heal some stuff. We have to work on things. We have to develop ourselves. God forbid we got to develop something. Like, come on. Of course you got to like learn things and grow. And the great analogy that we love to use is improving yourself physically. We all know, like, okay, you want to get healthier. Okay, bro, it's not just going to happen. Like, it's going to take a shit ton of discipline and effort, and you're going to exert yourself. You're going to change to maybe a diet that isn't as fun and it's not as like sweet or whatever. And it's going to take more discipline. You got to stay on a routine, yada, yada, yada. When it comes to relationships, we've observed that there's this really strange blind spot of thinking you don't do any of that. Like, love doesn't take effort. And so I think just starting off this episode right away, it's like, yeah, no, literally your relationship will take the most effort of anything in your life, but it will be the most rewarding because of that.
So what it feels like.
Yeah. So you want to start with it? Okay, go for it.
What it feels like when your partner sees the side of you that is, under the mask, your worst aspects of yourself, and you have this moment of realization that you're not going to be able to cover that up or unsee it. They're not going to unsee that side of you. Like, it's going to be, cemented into their memory forever. And that's like a really interesting thing for the ego to reconcile with,
Mm.
that somebody has truly seen this part of you that you don't want anybody to see or know about you.
Mhm.
It's damaging to your character, to your ego. And in those moments of being in a relationship where you're with somebody who doesn't reject you for that and sits down with you and talks to you about it and reconciles it with you and even forgives you and is willing to move forward, I think what it feels like is really scary, because I think there's like a part inside of yourself where you're like, how could you love me if I'm that? How could you love me if I did that, if I said that,
Mhm.
if I've behaved that way? And I think the invitation, or like the hardest part, is not self-sabotaging in those moments, because you can't even accept the love or forgiveness that your partner is extending to you, because you can't forgive yourself or you can't accept yourself. And it almost becomes like salt in the wound when someone is like that amazing that they will still love you, that amazing that they'll forgive you. And it even makes you feel shittier
It
because you're
paradoxically
like,
almost makes it worse. Yeah.
and then that's a whole nother thing. So like, if I could describe what it feels like, it's like every single time, me personally, and then you can, I know he wants to hear from you, is that every time personally I've been held accountable to being the worst version of me, or seeing the worst version of me, or, he's calling me out on that. That's the process I go through almost every single time, but it becomes easier over the years. And I have been able to become more trusting and be able to sit in that discomfort and not let it like freak me out, and to like know like the relationship can continue on, because like now I have proof of that over the years. But in the beginning, it's like the first time you're starting to do that with somebody, because you're probably not used to having a person in your life that can hold that space for you and can actually forgive you and not keep tally or keep grudge and keep bringing it up, or, use it as fuel for the fire later. It's like someone who actually cares about you and your well-being, and they want you to heal. Like, oh my gosh, I think like this is the first relationship where the other person, Matt, for me, it's like he doesn't want to keep tally of me. He doesn't want to throw it in my face. He doesn't want me to feel work. He wants me to heal. He has my genuine best interest in his heart. And I think that's just it's an interesting thing to experience. So when two people can commit to that, it feels paradoxical in the sense of it's terrifying, even though it should be great. It's challenging because it's hard to accept. It's humbling. It's revealing. And I think it really does motivate you to want to be better and to do better. I mean, even just for the fact that I love him so much, and I don't want to put him through my shit, you know? I don't want him to be a catalyst in my chaos. And so like those moments of him being patient and kind and like forgiving me or loving me motivates me, because I'm like, gosh, like you don't deserve to be a catalyst in my chaos.
Do you mean like collateral damage in your chaos?
Collateral damage.
Okay, I was getting lost on the catalyst part.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to just make a note of, I took a little ginseng right before this, and I am noticing that I am amped, and so that kicked in quickly. So I got to keep myself chill.
Nice.
Here. Have a sip of coffee. So sorry, I just wanted to apologize for, because I could feel my heart is a little more elevated now. I'm like, wow. Or maybe it's because I'm reliving this. I don't know. It's probably both. No, I'm just kidding. Both, yeah. I'm just kidding. But I've actually thought about this now in the last couple minutes. And yeah, those moments are, I have a little more intense way to describe it, because maybe I've had a minute to sit with it. But before I do, I just wanted to validate what you were saying of you working through this with your partner. I think the other thing, besides like your explanation, is like really selfless. Like you're saying, you do it for me.
No, not just for you. It's just one of the things that comes to mind.
I know, but that stuck out to me. That was such a beautiful motivation.
Well, yeah, I'm better. I'm just kidding.
It is it's a beautiful motivation. I love
You're
that.
selfish. I'm just kidding.
I love that motivation. But what I was going to build, I wanted to build off that and validate is a theory I have is when you truly are both committed to like a lifetime marriage, okay? Like you're both like, I'm all in until we die. Like I'm not going anywhere, okay? There's a caveat here. This really has to be nuanced. It's a theory I have when I observe younger generations and I observe the like marriageless people who are like in relationships, but they're not married. There's something, and because I used to want to do that too. I used to have this theory before we met of like a ringless marriage where we don't need to be legally married. We don't need to do all that. We just need to be like, I choose you every day. I get the philosophy of it. I get the theory of it, but I have noticed a profound subconscious thing of when you commit to someone and you say, no, I commit to you forever, no matter what, rain, shine. Now, again, caveat, I think we said this in part 1. The caveat here, and we put this like literally page 2 of the book. This does not mean abuse. This does not mean, all these like toxic, like really toxic things. I don't even know. We would have to take 10 minutes to sit here and caveat that. So please, everybody, use your best judgment. But what I'm getting at here is when you truly commit, there's something fascinating I've observed. And Ash was saying, your partner is someone who wants, she said, Matt has my best interest in mind. That's where it really sparked something for me. When you truly commit to someone, that person is officially, they have your highest interest in mind over anybody in your life ever, more than your parents. And here's why, because their life and destiny is intimately now connected to you. So Ash's well-being is 100% going to affect me. So of course I want her to be her absolute best self. And likewise, she wants me to be my absolute best self. So when you truly commit to someone, there's a beautiful incentive to be your best self that comes from that, is because you are mutually benefiting each other. Now, the irony is we think, I don't want to commit to someone and give them that much power. And again, another one of those ironies. It's like, yeah, I get how you could be scared to do that because you're afraid that, I don't want to give them that much power over influencing my outcome. And it's like, yeah, but ironically, if you would share that power together, it makes you be your best self because of it. Again, irony, paradox. When you embrace the fear, it makes you the most courageous version of yourself. So I just wanted to say, yes, I totally do it because I want to be better for you and I love you. But likewise, I think we both want to be our best selves because we know it benefits both of us. And I love creating win-win situations. It's like my obsessive thing where I'm always like, I love relationships where everyone's mutually benefiting because I know it's true and I know it's pure. So that's just how my mind thinks. I'm always like, what's the win-win? How can everybody feel like they won here? And in a marriage and in a true commitment, if you both are committed to being your best selves, you're going to both feel like, wow, you being your best self, like I get to enjoy that too. And like me being my best self, you get to enjoy that too. Like, wow, we're both winning and in sharing and growth and like progress. And I think there's something so invigorating about that. Like when Ash, this is what I'm trying to get at. I am Ash's biggest fan. When she succeeds at something, I feel like I vicariously get to enjoy that with her because it does affect me. And I get to be like her greatest cheerleader. And it's some of the interesting things we've observed about relationships is like, you got to like your partner. You got to love them. You got to be their biggest support. I love hyping her up every day. I'm like, you're fucking beautiful. You're so smart. You're so amazing. Like, you're so incredible. Babe, that was the most amazing idea. Like, I'm her biggest hype person. And I feel like she's my biggest hype person because when you have true commitment, you want your partner to be your best self. And I just think that's such a fascinating caveat and like a little nuance that gets lost. Because see, look, if I have one foot out the door subconsciously at all times, I don't care if she's her best self, technically. I have a subtle like, well, if it doesn't work out 10 years from now, it's cool. I'll just divorce you. So there's something weird, this theory I've observed of like, when you truly say in your hearts, both of you are committed in your hearts, I'm going to be with you for this whole life. And maybe you have a spiritual perspective of eternity, but it doesn't even matter. It's just like in this human experience, we are connected. You become incentivized to be your best. And I think there's something so cool about that I didn't know until I got married. And I really, like I said, I had the whole other theory too. But then once I got married, I really was like, dude, I don't think we're going anywhere. I think we're in this forever. It was a weird subconscious switch I noticed. So coming full circle now back to what does it feel like when you feel like that commitment isn't there and it could break? So I've had this moment happen more than just with Ash. There's also been friends where I've had this happen, other people that have seen this parts of me. And I remember it actually vividly. Mine, I'm a little more because I have the shame and guilt, probably. Mine even takes me as dark as wanting to die. And this is my ego for sure. I want to like die, like commit suicide type of thing. So that's that shame for sure. That's what shame is, what drives suicide. It's the rejection. It's what makes you feel like I need to end my life because I cannot face this. It's too much. And so when my shame has been really, really bad over the years, and there's been big pivotal moments here and there that I could pinpoint, mine, because you asked me, you wanted me to feel it. I'm telling you the real honest, raw feeling. The real honest feeling is I want to be nothing. I want to disappear. I want to be completely unseen. I want to be a void because my ego is so crushed by being seen in the shame, by being seen in the wound that I was in, that I want to literally be unseen. So, that's where the concept of suicide comes from, because I'm like, I just want to be gone. I can't face this. It's so fucking scary. I just wish no one would ever see me. Now, if I were to scale that back one notch, it feels like I just want to run away and I want to change my name, move to across the world and be, again, just gone. And I never want to associate or see anybody that saw that version of me ever again. I want to disappear. So those are the two like most extreme ways I could word it. That's how it felt. And I remember vividly this one particular time that was in front of Ash and other friends. And I remember because we were all sitting around and I was going through one of my experiences, and I had been lashing out and it was coming to a boiling point, and everyone was kind of basically having an intervention with me, being like, Matt, like, dude, you got to rein some shit in here. And I remember vividly telling everyone, okay, you guys, I feel like either I want to die, I want to leave all of you and never see you ever again. I want to divorce Ash. I want to never see these people again. I just want to run away from all of you. Or I'm going to be strong. I'm going to say, I'm sorry. I see that I'm doing this and I'll fucking overcome this for you. I will do this for myself, for you. I'll be courageous. And I guess all I have left is to just do it. And so, yes, it's terrifying. But for me, since you asked specifically what my experience is, it's that sheer, utter self-destruction. But then on the flip side, sheer, utter power. Pure self-empowerment of like, if I can overcome this, I can overcome anything. So that's that like, that like courage energy of like, if I can face my obliteration, ego obliteration, and say, I guess I'll just sit in this anyway. I'll just be uncomfortable. And you're all going to look at me and you're all going to know this. I don't give a fuck. I'll rise above it. I will face it. And there's something, that's why I think love is true power. It's like, that's going to be another book, by the way. Like, I already know, I've got this whole thing planned. Like, true love is power. Like, people that are obsessed with power, they're talking about force. They're talking about force. They're talking about, manipulating people and being, no. Power is love. True. It takes so much personal power to be loving to yourself and to another person and to receive love. It takes so much power. And in these moments of your partner seeing that most scary part for your ego to be seen as, it takes extreme power to sit in the discomfort of that and accept their love and also love yourself. Extreme power. So that's the polarity. And you can imagine, maybe if we go back and listen to part one, like I was saying, my soul just felt torn and apart. This is the feeling. Self-obliteration, self-destruction matched with epic self-power, self-potential. And you have these two sitting there right there. And back when I was doing counseling and coaching calls, one of the things I have a habit of doing is like pitching the person, because I feel like it's the ancient duality of like, there's two main roads. There's of course many, many forks off of it, but there's two paths. It's either you're going to go down the self-destructive, you're going to choose your ego, and you're going to choose unwinding into all those temptations, you're just going to spiral and it's just going to destroy you. Or you're going to sit in the discomfort and move forward anyway. And I think that is what I would describe all of these moments, big or small. That is always the choice. And I think for me, early on in life, I committed. I already know where the shitty path's going to lead. Again, I've tried to commit suicide. I've had a near-death experience. I've already been down there. I already know where that leads. It's already shit. It's already horrible. I already know. So there's something inside of me that gets intrigued by challenging myself to the other road and be like, well, Matt, what if you didn't do that? Like, what if you tried to just be uncomfortable in this? Let's see where that leads. And it has led to gloriousness, in all honesty, sheer goodness, absolute utter goodness. But the discomfort that it took to reach that level, I had no idea that was the game. That was the pitch. I wish my father, this is why I can't wait to raise my son, would be like, welcome to earth, bro. Duality means all your greatest suffering is also how you'll reach your greatest potential. And if you have this illusion that you get to be the coolest version of you get to be awesome son, we don't have a name pinned down yet, but whatever his name is, you get to be the most awesome Matthew. I'll just use myself for now. If you think you just get to be him without facing all your demons first, there's your biggest pitfall right there. And I'm so excited. And for any men listening, especially too, I think it's really trippy to realize the only way to be the most powerful version of yourself is through facing your vulnerabilities, facing your weaknesses, and being able to sit in them.
I want to say one thing about how this plays out in relationships, because I think it's an important caveat. And you said it's important that you like your partner, because I truly believe that this opportunity Matt had to face his discomfort and see himself for who he was in that moment of egoism and then be loved anyways and change it. And same for me, those moments of my egoism, seeing it and changing it. It came from the other person being loving and forgiving and compassionate toward us in those moments. Because if our partner has it out for us and they're just looking for another reason to just, show you're a piece of shit. Oh, there you are again, a piece of shit. See? And it's another reason to keep tally and another reason to put you down and another reason to destroy your, self-esteem. Because there are a lot of couples who are stuck in this pattern of being enemies and wanting to hurt and harm each other's self-esteem. And we have had these moments. We're not exempt from them. We've both done this to each other. But the healing that we have experienced where we were able to face that, let it go, heal it, accept it, be apologetic, own our fault, happened when the other person was not doing that, when they were kind, compassionate, tolerant, loving and forgiving and soft and gentle with us in those moments, which is the exact opposite of what you want to do with somebody who is, fucking up. Yeah. You want to put them in their place and show them, see, you're a piece of shit. And that only perpetuates it, because if you do that to your partner, you're just going to trigger their ego even more to double down. So you have to, when Matt said you have to like your partner, I saw this on TikTok and I was like, this is literally it right here. There are people who love their partner because they've been with them for so long, just like you love a family member, but you can't tolerate and you don't like them. And there are so many people who are in relationships where they love their partner because you have a love for them, but they do not like them and they do not respect them. And they are just keeping tally, and they're not willing to hear these messages we're talking about, because they're never going to feel like in a place of being compassionate and kind while their partner's lashing out. They're at war with each other. That invitation they're like, hell no, I'm not giving that to them. I'm not going to give them tolerance and kindness and patience. And they need to get down on their knees and beg for forgiveness. Like, that's how they feel. That's how much tallies they've built up, how much resentment. And so it's so hard, because ironically, we were only able to heal these things when we put our guard down. And even though that person's in the wrong and they're lashing out or they're doing something, we were able to be the stronger person and offer tolerance and patience and kindness so that that person felt safe enough to say, oh my gosh, I am doing this. I'm so sorry. And they didn't feel like they had to be defensive about it because they knew our loving presence wasn't using it as a threat. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not telling you this because I want you to feel bad about yourself, or I want to leave you, or I'm trying to put you down. Like, I want our relationship to be better, and I love you, and I'm only bringing this up because I think that this is fracturing our relationship, and you're in suffering, you're in pain, your emotions are getting the best of you, and like, I don't want you to feel this way, and you don't need to, and I'm here. Those are the moments where we were able to put our guard down.
And again, to access that, that's why my theory has been the commitment thing, because if that commitment isn't strong, why would you do that? So I feel like commitment is the precursor, which is why I was taking a moment.
Leave.
Yeah, because you're like, dude, this is way too fucking much. I don't want to help you with that. That's why I took a moment and really caveated that of like, the commitment is the first step that opens the door for you being willing to even do anything hard, for sure. But when you were saying that, it was like tearing me up. It's crazy loving someone.
It's so crazy. There's this whole idea in society where, I mean, depending on what camp you're in, right? Where it's like, I'm going to heal everything before I get into a relationship, or if I get into a relationship and somebody has issues, or that, like red flags. And sometimes there's red flags that cause the, okay, that one's too big and I got a bell. But what do you guys find? Because there were plenty of times in our relationship where there were some red flags where Steph should have left, or, I mean, the reality, it's like we were talking about in part one, where all of my shit had to be processed and healed and kind of brought to the surface first, right? And so I feel like it's such a nuanced thing where sometimes I don't even know what it is, right? It's just kind of by like grace that things work out the way that they work out. But I want to hear you guys speak to the idea that, because the whole book, right, the inner work of your relationships is the whole idea that that's what it's all about. And so how do you navigate that where, okay, this is something that is quote unquote doable. We can work through this. We can process through this, or it's not because it's too big of a thing. Yes, there's the caveats with like, physical abuse and things like that. But even like, I mean, I can think back to, I was never physically abusive, but plenty of like really toxic behaviors that were hurtful emotionally, mentally, all of those things weigh on a person over time and I mean, we tell a story, I think, in the first episode of the podcast where Steph had like a complete, not just like a nervous breakdown, but like her body went all strokey and like the left side of her face. And like she had this neurological thing that took place because of the amount of stress that she was carrying and going through. And a big chunk of that was directly connected to my actions and behaviors and everything. And so at what point do you decide, okay, this is too much for our relationship to work through, or this is the point where we lean in and where now it's finally like, oh, cool, this is where the relationship really begins because we're showing up for each other in all of these vulnerable ways that you've been talking about?
It comes down to each person being willing to heal. So if there's some level of self-reflection and some level of effort, like there's hope. If there is complete 100% denial consistently, there is no hope, because the 100% denial, we already know where that's going to lead. There's no room for improvement. The hope is coming from this person who's causing the pain in the relationship is able in some degree to self-reflect, apologize, and try again. Now, the issue comes in is, where is your level of tolerance with patience of how long that's going to take? Because the first time you see it and you apologize, you're likely just going to do it again. And I think that we have to have like an understanding of, okay, if we're going to work on this, it's not going to get corrected overnight. This is a lifetime of behavior that has to get unwound. Am I emotionally stable enough to be with this person as they unwind a lifetime of that? Or is the level that I'm experiencing, I am not in a stable, healthy place to even like deal with myself? And so every person's in a unique situation, because some of us might like completely be unaffected by our partner's, coping mechanism of trauma. It might be annoying, or it might be, hard, but it's not like that deep. And then on the other end, what you're explaining with Steph, like like it's affecting her this much, like this deeply, like the self inquiry has to come from like, am I destroying myself and losing myself in this process? Am I becoming unhealthy? And I don't have the strength to actually be a supporting person for this person. You know, like I can't even do it myself. And I think that's a unique thing for everybody to reflect on. And it's also an honest thing to understand that it's not going to get healed overnight. It might take years, it might take months. Some things are shorter, some things are longer. But as long as there is progress and you feel healthy enough to sustain the progress, then we say go for it. And it's just par for the course of a marriage. Like, yeah, there's shit, and yeah, this person has shit, but you love them. And that's like love transcends those things. If you are okay, you can handle it, and you understand that it's going to, you know, it's going to take some time, and they are showing progress. The progress is, it is getting better. It's not 100% fixed, but they're getting quicker at seeing it. They're getting quicker at catching themselves in it. They're getting quicker at apologizing without me having to point it out. We're starting to see signs of progress of this thing getting undone. Then you have hope. That's my opinion personally.
Mm-hmm. We got actually a good feedback and reflection on this just the other day from someone reading the book. And another thing that I realize that providing the caveat of when to walk away provides for people is, ironically, people can read that and it can also serve as the catalyst to finally work on things, because ironically you realize, oh shit, it's this bad that these relationship people are telling you should leave me. Fuck, maybe I should really look at this.
Backstory, the book has a section that says when to walk away, and there's I think like 11 points in it.
Yeah.
And there was somebody recently on social media who read it and realized, oh my gosh, our relationship is doing every single one of those things. But that moment of seeing that helped both of them say, okay, we need to read this book together. And now they are reading the book together, and realizing how bad it got is a catalyst for them to, and so that's hope.
So there's irony,
because even though they've been that bad, you know, there's obviously, you know, been verbal abuse and maybe even infidelity. It says it in there. And they're saying, yeah, we've had all of these, but the reconciliation of, I see it and I want to work on it, there's hope there. So as long as there's progress being made.
Exactly. So I just want to dovetail off what you were saying of like, there are some like interesting ironies that can happen of when you set a limit on something for a relationship, that ironically, while you would think you're basically telling the person they should, like, you guys need to leave, there are ironic moments where the very moment they're told you guys should separate, they say, oh shit, no, I want to do this. It's now that it's being put this way, I'm realizing I clearly see I do need to work on this, and I'm not willing to lose this relationship. So that's, to dovetail off what Ash was saying, is like, yeah, there are limits, there's tolerance, and there's degrees of things that we shouldn't or don't deserve to have to endure. But then at the same time, everybody's different and it's a personal thing.
And when it's not okay is when one person is vying for the relationship, hoping their partner is going to change, hoping their partner is going to see it, hoping their partner is going to wake up. And it's extensive, you know, periods of time of complete denial. I mean, I think
that's the most simple way to put it is when one person just has zero interest. That's the biggest. That's it. That's really the biggest thing.
But if both people can come to some level of self-awareness and actually take action, there's always hope.
There's always hope.
There's something you said at the beginning of the book, and I'm actually going to grab it because what you're bringing up is really triggering this. So in a beautiful way, it's like obviously you go right to the heart of things. There's not the tiptoeing in. You say it like it is and you go right to the heart. But there was a part right at the beginning. I guess I shouldn't have started talking. I should have just found it first. That was like, here we go. And it summed it up perfectly. And I think it goes off of this. So I've highlighted it. Give me a minute. Yeah, Craig, you're going to have to take over.
I love the beginning part of the book where you guys outline, like you were saying, there's these sections where it's like, this is when to call it quits. And if these things are taking place, I thought it was a really beautiful way to open up the book, because getting into all of it, it suddenly becomes like, oh shit, we're going to have to really work. Like, this isn't just a book. There's a lot of like self-help books and, you know, where you're reading things and you're taking away some ideas and there's some things that are going to help and might shift some perspectives for you. But you guys did such a beautiful job of breaking it down and being like, okay, this is what's happening. This is what you need to do. This is where it's just amazing. Did you find it, babe?
I did. I found it. And it's just like a little silly part that I'm going to add because I go through and I highlight and it's like highlighting the links. But this paragraph it got a heart. So I didn't highlight each line. I just like hearted it because it was so cool. And it's right in the beginning and it lets you know it's welcome to the greatest love story ever written, yours. But it actually begins with breaking up. You're about to break up and move on from your tumultuous love affairs and drama-filled relationships in order to embrace a love so satisfying and rewarding that you'll be pinching yourself daily to make sure it's still real. But don't worry, you most likely won't be saying goodbye to your current partner if you have one, assuming you're both willing to do the inner work. Instead, you'll both be letting go of your own shadows, unhealed wounds, and defense mechanisms together, which are the only things blocking you from the kind of relationship you want and deserve. And that paragraph was just like, it felt so real and so possible. It was like motivation. Like that felt like such a spark. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. It had such a spark of possibility, pure potential and pure possibility and accountability that if you are both willing to really step into it and it's like stripped down to the complete barest nakedness you could get and show yourself in that true vulnerability there and step into that space together, how much is actually possible. And so that like paradox of you're saying when you see it, when you finally see it, and even if you check all 11 of those boxes, it's both of you showing up in that space and both being willing to go that anything is possible. I love that. I love this book.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that kind of teared me up having you read the book and being like remembering writing that book. What a trippy journey to be now at this other end of it. But hold on real quick. I wanted to validate a nuance of notice. The nuance though was you do have to break up with that version. You do. And I think that's the biggest thing with healing is in relationships is you might not realize, but you fall into rhythms of versions of yourself with your partner. And it's really weird as you go through years this is why we were saying we were in part one, we were self-reflecting these last couple of weeks of how much we've changed and how different people we are. And it's like, well, yeah, because we broke up with those versions of ourselves. Like, because here's the catch. And I was telling Ash when we were reflecting on it, I was like, but dude, we didn't have to do that. You know how many people I know that are still the same? They're 60. They're the same they were when they were 20. That they're the same vibe. They're just like, this is who I am. Like, do you fucking like it or leave it? So we didn't have to break up with that version of ourselves. We didn't have to say, no, I'm gonna keep my shame and guilt. Like, I'm not getting rid of him. Like, I like him. I like that version of me. I'm gonna keep him. So we don't have to do it, which is why it's so profound that it all comes down to the hope is intention. The hope is if you want something bad enough, you'll do anything to achieve it. It's just the question is, do you want it? Because what we find a lot of times, which we say a couple pages after that, is a lot of people don't want true love, to be honest. They want ego glorification. They want lust. They want ego. They want pride.
They want someone who will.
They just want to be their ego to be put on a pedestal.
Who they are without holding them accountable to having to make any positive changes and not heckle them about it or irritate them about it. They want to be like, just leave me alone, and I'll leave you alone.
Hold on 1 second. Yeah, and to build off that concept too, it's like they want to just be loved. They think that here's a great. This is awesome.
Hey everybody, we just want to push pause and take a moment to thank you for tuning in to the Steph and Craig Show. We know there are so many podcasts out there right now, and we do not take it lightly that you have chosen to spend your time with us, and we need your help. We have a mission with the podcast. We want to reach over 1 million people on YouTube. So if you haven't yet, go subscribe to us on YouTube. You can search out Steph and Craig, and be sure to click the little bell so you can get notified every time we release a new episode. Lastly, share the podcast with somebody who you think might benefit, because we believe we all do better when we heal together. Now back to the show.
They think that love is being completely accepted and loved in their shitty behavior. Now, there's some half-truth to that. It's like, yes, but no. So most people, and I've observed this especially coming from guilt and shame culture, we think that unconditional love is I should be able to act shitty and you should just love me for that. Like let's really nuance that out. I remember so many times in our marriage where I did think this. I was like, wait, if you truly unconditionally love me, I should be able to be so toxic. And if you really love me, then you should just love me in the same way you love me when I'm behaving positively.
I think a better way to say that's even more relatable is when you're acting in a way you're thrown off when your partner holds you accountable.
Yes, and they're
because you
not
think
happy
they
about it.
shouldn't say anything and they should just tolerate it.
Yes.
And so when they pause you and they make you look at your behavior or the way
They're
you're
like,
acting,
what are you doing?
they're completely thrown off and they feel like, oh, you don't love me? I feel unloved by you right now.
Yes.
Instead of saying, oh, wow, like this is an opportunity for me to look at that. It's like, no, you shouldn't even be pointing that out to me if you love me.
You must not love me. So this is a massive trippy thing. We have as humans, as a species, we have a massive misconception of what unconditional love really is. And if you talk, especially in the spiritual community, if you look at what people think unconditional love is, they think that means you love me, you should love me just as positively and treat me just as positively, even in my shitty behavior. And it's like, whoa. No, let's unpack that for a second. True unconditional love is helping you be your best self and your potential. So that doesn't mean validating, enabling, and allowing you to keep being hurtful to yourself and to others. There's a huge nuance.
Or a better way to say it is that romantic love is conditional, because if the other person is not accountable, then that is a condition. And so, I mean, it's not unconditional love. Sorry, Matt. Like it's conditional love. Like unconditional love comes from a higher power, comes from God, divine, your creator. But relationships with other human beings do have conditions. And
totally.
And I think the issue is we think that their love should be unconditional. And that only comes from a higher power. Yes. And we're putting that onto our partner, which is an unreasonable ask of a human being. It's completely unreasonable.
Say that again.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, say that
That's
again,
really
please.
important.
That is a big deal.
And I wanted to caveat that real quick. So we'll say this again, and I do want to build off that one more time, though. So keep going. So
as people, we are putting an unreasonable expectation on our partner to love us unconditionally when that is the role. Let me try this again. We put an unreasonable expectation on our partner to love us unconditionally when that is really the role of a higher power, creator, God, universe, whatever you see that as. As human beings in relationships with each other, love is conditional, because if there aren't conditions, we are self-harming. And so requiring your partner to be an accountable, safe person, that is a condition. And so when we go into a relationship and we expect our partner to love us unconditionally, that's the role of God, not your partner. And I think it's an unreasonable ask. And I think it's important that we as partners realize that our partner's love is conditional, because that might motivate you to be a better partner.
So here's the nuance to keep going on that is, so what I was describing earlier is when we think love with our partnership, because it's like literally in marriage vows, like I vow to love you unconditionally. So like, this is what I'm trying to get at is, we think this is unconditional love. Now, to build off that nuance, you can love your partner unconditionally, but that doesn't mean you'll stay with them. So it's like I do have a condition of you being my wife, or she has a condition of you being my husband, because that's a certain relationship. But as far as loving her, like, yeah, I could love her from a distance unconditionally for sure.
And appreciate our
time together.
Appreciate your role in my life.
I can always see it with unconditional love for sure.
That it was all purposeful.
But as far as this being harmonious and being in everyone's best benefit and being a win-win, like we talked about, it's like, oh, of course there's conditions. We have to have a predisposition for things to improve. Otherwise, we're going to harm ourselves and each other. So it is super important little nuance there. But to really circle back and tie in what I'm getting at here is I've observed couples treat each other the worst of any other person. And I find that fascinating. And this is where the theories led me to conclude. Why is it that we show our partner our worst self? Ash, there's been so many times over the years she said, you would never talk to anybody else in your life this way. Why do you talk to me this way? And I said, we thought about it. And I think it's because we have this unconditional love thing. And so when we think you're supposed to unconditionally love me, we purposely and subconsciously show our worst self to them, because we think you're supposed to be the safe person to do this with. And it's like, well, geez, yes and no. And there's a lot of nuance there. And this is getting a little
I
messy.
think the nuance is that when you think that, you're not doing anything about it. You just think you can behave this
You're
way.
like, you're just supposed to love me for
Versus
this. Yes, that's what I was trying to get at.
Versus the commitment of you love me in my shit because you know I'm committed to working on it.
Yes.
Versus you love me and I am who I am and I'm not changing and you have to deal
And
with
you need
it.
to
Those
just
are
love
two
them.
different versions.
So much of this, and I'm sure you guys can relate, and I know that a lot of the book is about this too, because you brought it up. The like reparenting these parts of ourselves together in the relationship, because this this part of the conversation right now really makes me think about I mean, this is all like fresh, brand new in the last year or two. When we moved to Tennessee, it fucked us up in a lot of different ways. There was a lot of trauma that we had to go through to get here, as well as like just like recovering when we were here, and then all the we got really enmeshed with each other and really codependent, because that's some really early coping mechanisms for us. And I was really starting to feel a lot of resentment, and also recognizing how much I was behaving like a child in regards to in regards to Steph and treating her that way. And so this idea of like unconditional love being something that we just get because the person now loves me, it really makes me think about that parent-child relationship, right? Because at some point, like oftentimes for me, it was in the teenage years where you start to rebel and you start to push back against your parents and you start to challenge them, where it's like, hey, you say you love me. Are you still going to love me after I do this? Are you still going to love me after I do that? Are you still going to love me even when I'm like this? All of these things. And it really mirrors, I think, that dynamic in the relationship, because I can see that in our own relationship. I can see how that's a lot of what I was doing, was pushing against the love that Stephanie said she was giving me and that she was showing up with, in an effort to prove that I wasn't worthy of it, that I was unlovable, that it was still feeding that narrative and that program that I had from childhood. And then just the toxicity of that relationship that I had with my mother and with my father being played out in this relationship. So I want you guys to speak to, because a big part of this working together and healing together in relationships is reparenting those parts of ourselves and working through some of that inner child stuff.
Yeah, I just wanted to right away validate what you were saying of the simplest way to give ourselves something practical to work with is unconditional love. It's almost like we need to redefine what it means, because even as a parent, this needs to be like clarified. And even with God, this is how I feel God, this is how I feel true unconditional love is, just all across all boards, all relationships, is you are totally loved, you're always worthy of love, but there are consequences, and that's it. So the way I view my relationship with God even is like, God's like, dude, I'll love you. You are me. We are one. I love you. Your love is me. Blah, blah, blah. It's like love, 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 love. However, part of you being your most loved, happy, and virtuous self is mastering making choices. So this is a total other side theory. And I think we get into it at the very end of this relationship book, though. So I guess it is still relevant. Is we point out, because this whole book's about love and relationships ultimately. In the conclusion of the book, when we talk about unconditional love, we outline how true love is letting you have consequences. And that's really interesting for people to accept. And so by the time when we go to shame to unconditional love, true freedom, lasting happiness, you can really see how, dovetailing off what you just said, rejection, you're pushing against love to be like, will you still love me? Or are you going to really love me? Do you really love me? And love's like, yeah, dude, I love you, but like you're fucking yourself up. So stop it. I love you so much that I'm trying to help you stop. So by the time we get to the end, we realize we're the only ones who push love away. We're the only ones who test it. Love's like, dude, I never left. Like, I've been there the whole time. There's like this beautiful poem, this famous like Christian poem or like picture. I don't know. It's called like Footprints, I think. I don't know if you've ever heard of this one, but there's like this beautiful story and imagery of like, there's two footprints, two sets of footprints walking in the sand. And then like when life got really hard, there's only one set of footprints. And this person gets to the end of his life. He's talking to Jesus and he's like, hey man, So like you were walking side by side with me for a while, but when things got really hard, like how come there was only one set of footprints? That's just me walking. He's like, no, dude, I was carrying you through that. Like that was me carrying you. I was there loving you through that. And there's something really fascinating about love being like, I will help you through those hard times through learning. Learning is the greatest gift we could ever have as conscious beings. So, but it's ironic because when we look at learning, we say, well, what does it take to learn? Pain, mistakes, hurt, because without it, you can't learn. So there's this fascinating paradox of unconditional love is in order for there to be unconditional love, you have to be able to reject love. You have to be able to push against it. You have to be able to test it. You have to be able to reject it. You have to be able to fight with it. And so when we come full circle, it's like coming back to this point of, okay, in order for me to truly reparent myself and my partner, I have to realize that my parents didn't understand this. They didn't understand love. They just were projecting their own misunderstanding. And so the biggest way we reparent is we try to redefine what true love is. And so when we look at what is our definition of unconditional love and true love, we would say, well, true love is letting you have consequences. Or in other words, we said it's conditional. But I think if we nuance that a little more precise, we would say your love is unconditional with each other. There's just consequences. I think that's the most like practical way to use this to talk about love. It's like, yeah, babe, like I love you, but if you start cheating, go crazy and get hooked on drugs and stuff, like there's consequences to that. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I'll love you still and I'll appreciate everything about it. But so it's kind of like that. So when it comes to reparenting, what you're really looking at is you're observing parts of yourself that your parents didn't know how to love you through. They didn't know how to model you through that. They didn't have their own skills to guide you through that. So like with my shame and guilt, for example, those wounds in particular, my parents are still in their own stuff. What the fuck? Like Ash would always tell me, she's like, they gave you what they had. They gave you, because see, we get pissed at our parents sometimes when we go on our healing journey and we're like, fuck you. You gave me all this shit. You didn't know. And then Ash is always like, babe, that's all they have. They gave you everything they had. They have guilt and shame. So they gave you guilt and shame. If they knew better, they would have done better. If they knew.
I love that idea. Your parents gave you everything they had.
Yes.
Good and bad.
Yes.
They gave it to you at all. That's gave all you they had. All of it.
Yes. And they do love you. It's just that that's all they knew. So that is love to them. They gave you everything they knew to do. Now, a lot of times that wasn't a lot. They had so much trauma. They had so many issues. They had so many of their own things that what you're really reparenting is the innocence of humanity. It's like the ignorance and innocence. It's like no one fucking knows how to do this. So we better figure it out. And instead of blaming everybody else and instead of getting mad at our parents, I guess we're going to have to try to learn some new shit. Hence reparenting. It's like, well, my mom didn't know how to do this or my dad. And she's like, fuck my parents either. It's like, well, then what are we going to do? We don't get a new set of parents. So we better try it ourselves. Let's experiment. Let's reparent that inner child part of ourselves because our parents only gave us all that they knew. Maybe we can think of something different. And hence the creation of a relationship part.
So the Inner Work of Relationships book takes couples through the different levels of self-esteem development, assuming that you're both going to be reparenting your inner child together. Mm-hmm. And so the way it starts is you start healing, the darkest wounds all the way up to the most self-empowered states and becoming like the most self-empowered self-esteem states together as a couple. Knowing that when you create a home with somebody, like this is a reparenting of your inner child, you cannot avoid it. When you guys have a home together or you have children together, you start a life together, this is the memory of your whole upbringing coming up again, doing things the way your parents did or, acting toward each other the way your parents did. It's all going to come out.
It's all subconscious.
And so we have to have a strategy here to say our inner child is going to come out like in this home together. And so what are we going to do? And so the book walks you through levels of self-esteem development. We call them, healing the wounds of, or, the healing themes of. And really what they are, they're different stages of self-esteem development that we might have not had a healthy relationship as a child. So like the wound of rejection is like, how can we create a relationship together where the relationship is free of shame? The wound of judgment is, how do we create a relationship together where our relationship is free of judgment? We're not going to get punished and guilt and judge each other. The wound of overwhelm is, how are we going to create a relationship together where neither partner feels abandoned and overwhelmed in the stresses and the financial issues of life, and we feel supported. And then you go through them. It's like the wound of loss, and it's like, are we able to like be there for each other through grief? And then it's like fear. It's like wound of distrust. It's like, are you a safe person? Do you guys trust each other?
Can I rely on you when we face the unknown?
And then it's like wound of violation. It's like, are we going to have a relationship where we respect each other and we don't feel violated by each other? So you're going through each of these stages of self-esteem development together. And in your relationship, you're doing the things that either your parents didn't teach you or give to you, you're redoing them with your partner, or it's things you didn't even have experience with at all as an adolescent or as a teen, or even in your past relationships. It didn't come up until now. So in this moment of this situation where maybe violations coming up or fears coming up, you don't have experience navigating that situation. So hence you revert to a childlike coping mechanism, because you're basically a child, because you have very little life experience even going through something like this. Or maybe your partner does, like this was their whole life. So they have a lot of experience and wisdom in navigating that situation. They don't act like a child. So they're looking at you like, why are you acting like a child right now under all this stress and pressure? This is not the time to be like throwing tantrum. You need to get it together. And it's like, well, why? Either that was their coping mechanism. They were taught that's how their parents acted, or literally they've never experienced this. They have no experience and they are reverting to being 5 years old, because like they basically are. And so this book teaches you, how you can start to see your partner's inner child instead of just seeing them as an adult that's fucking up. And you can have a more compassion and be like, oh, you're like 5 years old right now. Like, oh, you're like 16 in your wound of violation. And you can have a little bit more tolerance and compassion, and you can learn how to not perpetuate that wound by getting triggered yourself. Because we start to spiral. When our partner is triggered, they're acting out. If we don't got it together, they trigger us. We spiral. Now we're just in a big trauma bond together, just spiraling the shit out of each other. And so someone's got to have some self-awareness in those moments to bring it back to the deeper root instead of staying on the surface. And so every single one of those self-esteem development stages we talk about, we have inner work for the individual who's triggered and in it. We have work for the partner to support the person without spiraling them out, and how to like stay centered while their partner's going through this. And it just helps you guys be able to see your relationship together as, this gradual journey of, like I said in episode 1, of becoming the people you always saw yourself as. You just didn't realize what you were going to have to go through, and the changes you were going to need to make together, and you didn't know how. So we tried our best to outline exactly how, where you can pinpoint like, okay, this is rejection. Okay, this is anger and violation, because each one of those stages have a very unique next step, and they're not like transferable. Like someone who's in grief, their medicine is not the same as somebody who is in insecurity. And so when you know how to identify where you're at or where your partner's at, you can actually show up for each other in a conducive way, instead of just blanket situation like, just think positively, or I don't know what the blanket medicine is, or getting pissed at them. It really helps you to actually make progress.
Or even just holding them accountably with everything. It's like, but accountability is, and like courage are actually relative. Majority of the
right now,
actual
they just
healing,
need comfort.
right now they just need you to
they
fucking
don't need
hold
you to
them.
hold them accountable. They need a hug.
They need a hug. They're crying.
And so
it's ironic.
Tells you that.
Yeah, and I love that we were guided to take this emphasis on this second book, because we really, really drilled down on, like, when it comes to relationships, what you're really dealing with is just children in adults' body. And it's so easy to forget. But when you really are with someone, you do see it, especially if you're with them for years. You go, holy shit, I could see 5-year-old Ash right there. I could see 10-year-old Matt. 100% I see that you're still stuck in that consciousness. It didn't, Because see, what happens is when we get wounded, your consciousness gets frozen in that. It gets blunted, it gets stunted. And unless you do something to heal it, that's why people get stuck in wounded patterns their whole life, is because it's just like my consciousness got fucked up right there and it never developed. It never healed. It never went on. And that's why we see when we look at people who have been through a lot of extreme abuse, they're stuck at that age that the abuse happened. It's another way that psychologists tend to look at it. But for us, with the inner work and more spiritual yogic perspective, we're like, well, yeah, you totally could say it's that age development, but we're like a little more precise in the sense of like, no, it's this stage of consciousness. It's this self-esteem that, because see, sometimes you can keep, it's not just the age. This is what makes it so trippy for people that we love and hope that the book helps clarify. In like chapter 3, we go over how a lot of times it's a spectrum. You're like a blend. So it's like, yeah, like when it comes to like personal freedom, I'm stuck at 16. But like when it comes to finances and running a home, I'm fucking 40 or 50 or whatever, right? Like I'm like super mature, right? So that can confuse people. It's not that simplified of like, oh, well, your dad beat you, and started beating you pretty heavily around 10. So you're stuck at 10. It's like, well, no, just that part of my personality. And that's usually about like personal freedom and autonomy or something like this. So what's
that is
really
so liberating.
Yes, exactly.
There's so much,
It's a
yeah.
spectrum. Yes. It's not everything. It's not just like you're just permanently that your whole, now everything about you is stuck there. It's like, no, hold on. You're a spectrum. There's so many other aspects of your personality that kept developing perfectly healthy and matured right on
Yes.
course. It's
That's
just,
really, really liberating. There's so many times I've heard that and I just take it literal and to the heart. And I'm like, I'm 3. I'm just going to be 3 my entire life. I'm 3. And I completely ignore and wash away all the parts of me that is actually succeeding and doing well and healing. So I'm like, I'm a 3. And now I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. I've never heard it explained quite to that level of it's that part of you. It's that part of you. It's that belief. It's that personal freedom. It's the autonomy. It's being able to trust yourself that got stunted there and how much you can still trust yourself and moving forward. And I know we've talked about trust before, but will you just like run that one more time? I want to hear, because that for me, my heart just went, boom. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. There's so much possibility there.
We're so multi-layered. And again, I think this is all in chapter 3 of the book where we really drive home a lot of times. No, not even a lot. All the time. Every relationship is a blend. You are a blend of things. Like Ash, like we said earlier, might be super evolved in making choices because her parents just let her have free choice. So she's got way more experience than me. But I might be really good at discipline and routine because she didn't have that. So I'm like, I've been fucking doing this my whole life. I know how to do that. So a lot of times in relationships, you're a blend of maturities. So that's the first thing I just want to make sure and say. And so you're helping each other be like, hey, don't worry. I'm really good at facing fear. I've been doing it my whole life. Or I'm really good at being routine. Lean on me, dude. I got you. Hey, I'll teach you this. You teach me that. We're a team. But then when it comes down to your personal self, now if we boil that down, each of us then has our own individual blend in spectrum where it's like maybe my sexuality got super fucked up and pinpointed because I got abused or I got molested or I went through some serious trauma. So my sexuality is now really stunted and damaged. But then like maybe again, like my personal, my like the way I handle tasks or like routine or finance or having a career, like I'm really good at having a job, but like if you try to be intimate with me, oh fuck, boom, revert, I'm back in the trauma.
And in the book, we don't say ages, we use themes.
We use
so
themes
instead of saying
age.
you're 3, you can say, oh, well, like when it comes to sexuality,
like I'm in shame and
I've
guilt.
got shame and guilt, where when it comes to finances, I feel willingness. And so instead of like pinpointing an age, it's more so pinpointing like a theme, a feeling, and an overall like life view.
Yes. So parts of your personality get stuck in themes, not the whole you. Just that area of your life and that part of your character can get stuck. Whereas all these other parts could keep going. And that's what makes it kind of confusing, why we're so passionate about this work, because we're hoping that it does what you were just saying, like it liberates people and goes, oh yes, that feels so much more loving.
So
Like
something
that feels so
fun
much more true.
you can do as you use either of the books is like when you go through each theme, you can kind of do like the Buddhist life wheel, and you can think about like my career, and then you can like go through each theme and see where it resonates. And you could be like romance, and then you can go through each theme and see where it resonates, or finances, and go through each theme. And so then you can fill in your spectrum and kind of get like an idea of, and you can even write like on the side like what category you're putting this theme in. And you can kind of tell like, you're more of a spectrum. And I like to think of it as like musical notes. Like when you look at a theme colored in, it kind of looks like a frequency or like music or sound, and it's always changing. And like the colors are like changing in different aspects of your life. And like when you put them all together, like your whole lifespan of each time you like assess your spectrum, those are like notes that create a symphony, which is like you and your whole life.
I love it. You both have been a part of our lives, but of my life, speaking for myself, for 2 years now, a little over 2 years. And sometimes it takes a while to hear things, right? Sometimes you just hear it. And there's so much expansion and liberation that is coming with this. Just like that, really, that awareness of it's just this part of you, and you're so much more than just parts of you, and where you are held back in one part doesn't mean that's all you are confined to. And when we first met you, you had already written the inner work. And the incredible thing about that book is the way I've described it is, it doesn't matter how many times you read that book, it's a different book every time, because you are different along your journey. You learn more, you have more awareness. So when you read it again, you read things and hear things that you missed the first time. And so it's like this whole exploration. You get to start over. It's like, and you're learning all over again. It just grows with you, is how that book feels for me. It's amazing. So if somebody hasn't been journeying with you this whole time, and they're just watching this podcast, they're seeing you pop up, they're seeing this book, and they're like, yes, me and my partner, we're ready. And they grab this book, the inner work of relationships, the how to, and something comes up. They've got a sticking point. Say it's, we'll go with jealousy. They're feeling really insecure. They're feeling really jealous, and they're feeling like they aren't worthy enough, and their partner's going to cheat or they have just some of these things that are coming up. I'm just pulling one. How does somebody that's new to your work, how does somebody that's new to this open this book and find where they are?
Well, for starters, one of our favorite features of the new book is there's a glossary in the back, and jealousy is literally on there. So for starters, one of my favorite, this was like, I wish we could have done this on the first one too, but this book's so much more detailed that it just made more sense on this one. Of literally, there's a glossary in the back of every relationship dynamic, both positive and negative, that you really could want to look up and figure out. And we really wanted this second book to be used like a manual for this exact reason. It's like, okay, there's jealousy coming up. And instead of sitting there reading the book cover to cover, trying to figure out how to help with that, you just flip to the back glossary, look up jealousy. They're like, oh, okay, that's chapter 12, like wound of inadequacy or something. And so you go read that, and it will literally address where it's coming from, why you're feeling that way, what probably made you feel that way, where the trauma came from, why you think this about yourself, what you need to do to develop the self-esteem to move through that, what your partner can do to help you move through that. And it's super precise. So as far as addressing specific things, that is literally how we wrote the second book, to be used as a reference like that. And you don't necessarily need to read it cover to cover. We put this in the very beginning of the book. It's like in the beginning, opening disclaimers, it's like how to use this book, because we know that it's so deep. And see, here's the thing too. Sometimes you don't have certain wounds. So like, you don't need to spend time maybe reading that right now. You want to read what's really pertinent and like coming up. And so it's like, just flip to that section. It's meant to be read that way. And if for whatever reason you're like, well, I feel like I haven't quite developed the thing to be able to do this, then okay, then sure, go back a couple and then, figure out where you're like, where it's not clicking. But the first thing is, when it's specific things, the book is designed to be used that way. The second thing though, that I think should always be done is those first 3 chapters really lay the foundation of the mindset you have to have. And then the rest of the book is all manual style. You would just turn to that one section if you want. You could read it cover to cover and go from shame to like, enlightenment basically. And it's like, you're going to go on quite the journey. or you can just put bits and pieces over the years and just use it as like a reference and then implement that. Let that marinate for a while. Do that for like a few months. Master that one thing, like master your jealousy. Just do that first, for example. Master that for a year. And then if once you feel like you're like, I really feel like I've worked through this, I've healed this, I've given it attention, I've honored this inner child part of me that where I learned jealousy. And then, maybe the next year a new thing pops up and you're like, all right, let me dive into that. I mean, I think that's really the healthiest way to work on anything in your relationship is don't try to take it all on at once. Just pick the most distracting, most destructive. Just master that. Just be like, all right, I'm working on my shame. I'm working on my jealousy, whatever your thing is. Like, just do that. And then once you really feel like you got a handle on that, you move on to whatever else is relevant.
Don't have to handle it all at once. You can literally grab
just
this
pick
book,
the shittiest thing and work on that first.
read the first 3
Yeah.
chapters.
And it's like, it's a lifestyle.
Yes, I love that. So you grab it, get the book, read the first 3 chapters, get the framework. I mean, ideally, you get the inner work and the inner work of relationships. I highly recommend that. They are our go-to. We use them a lot. But you can grab the book, read the first 3 chapters, and then pick where you're at and really dive in. You don't have to take it all on. You can start where you're at, dive in, and let yourself unweave all those ways that those are tied into your space and grow from there. I love that. How cool is that?
Matt Nash, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that was the goal. Yep. I was just going to say that was the goal. I'm glad you appreciate this style of it.
We appreciate everything you guys
Yes.
are, the things that you do, the way that you show up in the world, what you share with the world. These books have been massively impactful for us, and I know that they're going to be impactful for millions of people out there as well. Before we end, is there anything else that you guys want to mention about the books? Obviously, they're going to get shared in the show notes, everything like that, so people know where they can go find them, they can go purchase them. Obviously, it's really, really easy. But is there anything else that you guys want to mention?
All I was going to say real quick, since you brought up both books, is the inner work is really tailored towards our own personal inner work. And it's really about addressing your own ego, your own vulnerabilities, your own blind spots. And it's really highly recommended for people to read to go on their own spiritual journey. It's very individual based. And then the inner work of relationships is specifically tailored to now how do you implement that when it comes to a relationship and how your ego interacts and shows up with other people. Or in this case, we refer to it as inner child because it's a little more compassionate. So I just wanted to say, since you brought up both, that's really what we recommend people whenever they ask, like, what's the difference or what should I start with? It just depends on what your agenda is. It's almost like ideally both people would be reading the inner work and doing their own processing, and then they would be reading the inner work of relationships together. Like that would be like the healthiest flow, but everyone, do what you want with that.
I love that. You can do like Craig and I, we have 2 copies of the inner work and 1 copy of the inner work of relationships. So just like you each have your own journey with it, and then you work on it together. There's something that just popped into my brain. I know we're wrapping it up, but I just wanted to say, is I go through a lot of self-help books. I go through a lot of growth books, and there's so much beneficial to going through that. But one thing I have found, especially at the beginning of my journey, is that I felt a lot of shame in a sense, and being like, I'm not doing this right. Oh, I should be doing this. Look at all these things I'm not doing right. And sometimes it was even left to kind of feel worse about myself because it looked like all the things that I was doing wrong. And one of the very unique and loving things about your books and your style of writing that I got with the inner work is it was such a loving journey the whole way through. You felt guided, you felt accepted, and it was like there's nothing wrong with you. Like, of course, this is coming up in your space. You were so worthy of love as the whole thing going through, and it walks you through how these beliefs came, how these feelings came. So you're empowered throughout it, learning about yourself, not finding things to shame about yourself. And that is such a deep and profound gift that you're giving, that is something that you can somehow translate into words that people get to now have this experience when they read this. And it's really, really beautiful.
You're making me tear up.
Thank you.
Because that was very, very intentional. And, to leave us with a fun little food for thought is, since we talked about reparenting and parents, that urge to make sure that anything we do, even though we're calling out hard things, it's always been this obsession of mine that people feel loved and it's okay, because I have so much shame and judgment wounds. And this is one of those ironies of our greatest wounds are also our greatest gifts. So it's like, on one hand, my mom made me super self-conscious about judgment and stuff, but it also made me obsessed with making sure other people feel loved. So it became a gift. And now hearing you say that you noticed that, it like was tearing me up, because I'm like, you have no idea how important that was to me, to make sure that when you read it, like when we're writing it, I'm reading it. And if at any point I feel like I need a boost, I'm like, I got to put something motivational. I got to remind them they're loved right now. Like, it was so intentional to do that. And so it just really like teared me up. The fact that you acknowledged and noticed that, it's like, that just made it worth it. So, because if you're saying it, then I'm hoping so many other people feel that. And this is all about love. This work is about us feeling loved, feeling innocent, reconnecting with our innocent inner child and the truth of what we really are. The only reason why there's suffering in this world is because we've just forgotten who we really are. We forgot the innocence, and it just makes me cry, because it's really just that simple. It's just like, we got to return to love. We got to return to being a child, and we got to return to the innocence of that and how simple that could be. But because we have all these wounds, we're so defensive and guarded, and it's really just stripping that away to be like, but you're so loved and it's okay. And you're forgiven and they're forgiven, and everybody's just doing the best they can.
It's such a beautiful take on relationships. It really is. I mean, all your guys' teachings are just so profound and so amazing. So thank you so much. We really, really love both of you. This has been such a fun interview, such a fun hangout with you guys. So nice to be able to sit down and have these conversations together. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
And where can everybody find you?
The Yoga Couple on all social media platforms, and The Inner Work also on all social media platforms for the books.
Wonderful. And congratulations again on the baby.
Yeah.
Like, we're so excited for that whole thing. It's just like divinely, beautifully timed, I think, in conjunction with the book and everything else. It's super awesome. So everybody go follow Matt and Nash.
Thanks for having us, you guys. It was really
thank
awesome.
you so much.
We love you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
We're so grateful you were here. We love you so much. So grateful for you both. We love you. Love you so much. Okay.
So we have a tagline that we end every episode with, and you guys can give it. We'll tell you what it is, and then you guys can end the episode with it.
Should we do the question?
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So the tagline is: expect the best, plan for the greatest.
Expect the best, plan for the great. We're going to say it together.
Expect the best, plan for the greatest.
Yes.
Love you.
Love you guys.
Wait and see, you and me, we were meant to be.
We want to make something perfectly clear. This podcast is presented for educational and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to be used as a substitute for professional advice. We're sharing with you our own personal insights and experiences, things that we have found to be helpful and healing on our journey. But we are not licensed therapists. If you need help, it's important to seek out a qualified professional. Remember, we believe we all do better when we heal together. See you soon.